Welcome to the next episode of the CAPB podcast. Today we have the founder of Forces Brands, Ash Stafford, from the Parachute Regiment. Welcome, Ash.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Grateful to be here.
Mate, it's fascinating actually because we kind of do the same thing, which is Ace. You know what I mean? Your platform celebrates veterans and you do it exceptionally well. I can't wait to hear the story. And that's kind of what we're about. It's just celebrating veterans, talking about their stories and the military community, about what they bring to business, and what they're doing post-service and some during service. So it's going to be, can't wait to talk about it, mate.
Yeah, so when I did see CAPB podcast come up and I was having a look to see what it was about, I was like, crap. We're doing the same thing, but it's all good because it's all in support of veterans and veteran-owned businesses. So
100%.
if we can raise them in any way, that's what we're in.
Mate, I love that, mate. Love that.
So we always start with the opening question, Ash, which is, can you give us a highlight of your military career?
Okay, stand by for a 3-hour story. So I joined in 2003. From a young age, I knew I wanted to be in the Parachute Regiment. Even at the swings as a kid, swinging on the swings, I thought I'm pretending I was in a parachute. So I always knew I wanted to join the Parachute Regiment. My family life growing up was really volatile. My parents had a really messy and violent, divorce. Police were around our house regularly. So I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to go and join something that's bigger than me and bigger than myself. And I'd recently been watching Band of Brothers, and I was like, airborne all the way, get myself in the Parachute Regiment. And it was, having already been experienced to certain levels of being shouted at and stress levels, I thought, this is for me. I'm going to get in there. And lo and behold, it was a longer process than I first imagined. I was 16 years old, thought I was joining the Parachute Regiment, ended up in a college in Harrogate, the Army Foundation College, spending a year there. And it was quite soft. I thought, actually, the Army's not too bad. It's pretty fair games, pretty easy. And there was a lot of us that were joining the Paras at the time. So they put us through like this intense first day. The first day was like a 6-miler, followed by the steeplechase, followed by the Trinasium, and they had to whittle down how many people because they only had a certain amount of bed spaces. So day one in Parachute Regiment Depot in Catterick, I was getting absolutely smashed. And I was like, I'm 17 years old by this point, in a world of hurt. The instructors I had at Harrogate were nothing compared to these instructors I got in Parachute Regiment Depot. They were on it. They were like hounds. So it kind of went from there. My first attempt at P Company, I failed. 17 years old, did all the events and then failed on the square. And there was another P Company running the day after, which those of us that failed on the square volunteered for, but were told, no, you have to wait. Anyway, passed the next P Company, went to 2 Para, went to Iraq, done 2 tours of Afghanistan, various, jobs at training establishments. And now I'm back at 2 Para in a welfare capacity, trying to get the most out of the blokes and get them prepared for operations, whether it's they've got their financial stuff in good stead, their mental health in good stead, all that sort of stuff. It's all operationally focused. That's me.
Mate, how do you find it now? Like, my 2 eldest sons are in, right? And Cameron, he's with the Royal Welsh. He went through Harrogate. And the funniest thing with like Cameron and Ethan's 22, he's a PTI with a Remy based in Aldershot. But like Cameron joined before Ethan, so he was younger. Cameron's 16, goes to Harrogate. Ethan then joins like 4 months later, passes out of his phase 1, passes out of his phase 2, and then Cameron passed out of Harrogate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like such a long period of time. So, but what I was going to get at was, how you find it with the blokes now at Parachute Regiment? Because when you joined and when we joined, because we all joined at a similar time, similar era, very, very kinetic, constant operational tours and deployments, which is what we kind of joined for. How you find it with the guys now joining and maybe not as busy, not the opportunity to deploy? That, that generation of, I think one of the guests said it, like the generation famous for, his words, not mine, famous for doing nothing.
So, yeah, there's definitely a level of respect that should be earned to the guys and girls that joined during the Iraq and Afghanistan campaign, because they knew what they were going into. They knew that they were going to end up out in these war-torn countries at some point, and there's definitely a level of respect that is owed to those people at those times. However, I wouldn't say it's any different right now. You've got 16, 17, 18-year-olds joining, and the world is really volatile at the moment, and they have no idea if the script is going to be flipped and they're going to be out on the front line in a maybe potentially a lot more kinetic than what we experienced. And it's the unknowing is probably more, hats off to you, unknowingly knowing, if we're going to be out in some of the hotspots that are going on in the media at the moment. So I don't think it's changed. I think the level of bravery that's out there within mostly our working class, I would probably say, and lower class, or it's still there. There's no difference.
It's crazy because it's like I don't know if I caught it earlier on before we had those technical issues, but my two eldest sons are in, and I love that they're in. I'm very proud that they're in. Cameron's with the Royal Welsh, Ethan is with the Remy, and I love that they're in. I don't know as a father whether I would be like, do you know what I mean? Whether I would feel differently if they were on the same kind of tour. It's a crazy. I can't really explain it, because when it was me doing it, very much it was like, great, this is what we're doing. Let's do it. And I didn't really think about the people back home, about what impact that might have, until now. As I say, my two boys are in. I'm like, hopefully it'll stay nice and quiet for a bit. So we are obviously experiencing some technical difficulties. So hopefully this will knit together better. Wayne, we're sorry. But Ash, what is Forces Brands?
So if I go into the background of Forces Brands, it started off as a podcast called Blue Pigment Podcast, and it was centered around the creativity within the Forces community and veteran community, whether it's poetry, art, singing, playing instruments, whatever it was. I wanted to talk to people and say, why do you write poetry? Why do you write songs or whatnot? And that's where it started. And from there, I got to interview people that were former CIA, former SAS, and all walks of life in the British forces and American forces and Australian. Kind of a bit of a global coalition podcast, I guess. And from there, in interviewing these people, I realised that there is so much creative spirit in the veteran community. And why that is probably because their ability to express themselves when they're at work in the forces is limited. We all wear the same clothes, we all have the same haircut, etc., etc. So when veterans have an opportunity to finally express themselves, I think it all comes out like boom. And the best ones I've found are the ones that have taken it serious, and they've taken it to the next stage, which is starting their own business. And that is no easy feat. Starting your own business, it sounds romanticized that you're going to work for yourself and you're going to have, you're going to set your own schedule and your own hours, and you've got no one to answer for or answer to. But that is so far from the truth. When you start a new business, there's so much learning you need to do. There's so much time and money that you need to invest into your business. And it would be a sad state of affairs if somebody created a business which has all the possibility and chances of being successful. However, they wasn't supported at the very right time, or they didn't have the education in search engine optimization, or all a variety of different topics. And these people that have served their country, in my eyes, deserve to be heard about, to be vocalized. So I started Forces Brands. It's probably the same reason you started your podcast, is to boost the profile of these individuals. So on the website, we've got over 140 different veteran-owned organisations that span from clothing brands, consumables like coffee or training supplements, to artists, authors, and a bunch of links, basically. So it started as being a link tree for multiple veteran brands and organisations. it then developed into a multi-veteran marketplace where there is, at the moment, 5 different brands that you can buy their products and have them all in one basket at the checkout. So kind of functioning in a way as a veteran Amazon. Very ballsy for me to say, but that's the vision, a veteran Amazon. And it's developed further into having a social media aspect to it in regards to like a forum where people can post up their pictures of their products that they've bought from veteran organizations, or they can just leave good feedback, good comments about a veteran product. So it's got like a aiming towards maybe like a veteran Facebook. Lots of different avenues, and we've recently added veteran events. So if there's an events organising veteran, for example, Nomad Mountaineering, if they have events going on, they can advertise them on Forces Brands. In one sentence, Forces Brands is an advertisement agency for veteran organisations. That kind of sums it up.
Mate, I honestly love what you do, and we absolutely are on the same path in the sense that Paul and I both transitioned out of the military, and having that exposure to just finding another career, establishing some kind of identity and a purpose, and setting yourself up as a civvy is one thing, but the bravery for these guys and girls to do it and go into business is fascinating. And we thought that some of the businesses we spoke to, it would like I would be using them, and then I realised they were veteran owned.
Yeah.
Like a great example is Zip World. So Zip World in Wales is a veteran owned brand. It was started by a guy called Sean Taylor, who was in the Royal Marines, and he left the Royal Marines. 2 seconds through this window. He left the Royal Marines in around 2001, 2002. Worked on the circuit for a couple of years. Was like saved a little bit of money, and then like unfortunately one of his colleagues got killed, and was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So bought a woodland in North Wales. Fast forward 20 years, he's just sold Zip World, or sold a stake in Zip World for 100 million quid.
Wow.
And he built it, and he is, as I say, he's a Royal Marine. And he was like, I've got a vision, and it's in North Wales, and he brings work, he brings revenue, he brings jobs, everything. And he stays where, you know what I mean? He's not trying to, I'll just move to London or wherever. He lives where he lives, and I think it's fascinating. And there's some others, like we stumbled across Rugby Buckets, like Jack Wiles. All the stuff he was doing was fascinating until I watched a video and saw his SFSG like badge and his RAF uniform hanging up. So I messaged him straight away and was like, "You're a veteran." He was like, "Yeah." So we had him on the podcast, and I think we found that. I don't know how you feel about it, Paul, but it blows my mind. Like you say, the creativity, the risk, the passion these people have got to go into business. Yeah. And the resilience to go through some tough times is fascinating.
So for me, it's when you leave the military, it's you know, I've said this before, where you're leaving a life, right? You're not leaving a job. It's a complete life that you're leaving. And hello, Piper. And then when you do that, you know, you've got so many things running around your head. Where am I going to live? What am I going to do? And you almost want to fall into something that's potentially safe. So, you know, you go with what you know, and you may get a job here, a job there. But for them to turn around and go, actually, I've got all this going on in my head, but what I want to do is I want to go and make whiskey, or I want to be a successful PT, or I want to, you know, use fabric in a way that creates art, or I want to, you know, it's just, that blows my mind, because I wouldn't have, well, me personally wouldn't have had the vision or the inside sort of will to go away and do that, because I'd want to make sure everything else is safe before. So it's a risk on top of a risk, which what we found with the guests, all the guests we've had on the podcast, is paying off. And I think it's a mindset within the military community that allows them to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a question that I'd love to have answered, and I don't know if you guys have spoken to, you've spoken to many veteran business owners, and that is, what do you think it is that drives veterans to want to be independent and have their own business?
Mate, I think I have an opinion on it. I think there is a mixture of things, is what it is. I think there's a mixture of things. There is like having that. As I say, when you're in the military, you have a purpose. You are part of a military, part of an organisation, but you can't entirely do exactly what you want. You kind of dictated to where you're going to work, what you can do, even how you have your hair. Do you know what I mean? So it's like one of those things. So there is a bit of that, which is like maybe it's just like I want to do something for myself, like you said, that dream and vision of working for myself. I don't want to have to answer to anybody. But I think it's more like people have an idea, they have a passion for something, and what they've learned in the forces, that resilience, that ability to get things done, that responsiveness to change, that in fact, what's the worst that can happen, I'm willing to take that calculated risk. I think it's those skills that help them get the business over the line. We had Danny on from In the Dead Ground, and he says on the podcast, he was like, there was a time when he had something like £3 in his business account. He was like, I had £3 in my business account, and it was like, I'm all in this. Now, would I have been brave enough? Definitely not. Do you know what I mean? But it's like that. So there are a lot of them are like that. A lot of people are going, right, I'm going to put my life savings in this, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work because I'm not going to allow it to fail. Like you said, it's like working for yourself and choosing your hours. Well, you do choose your hours. It's every hour, because every single veteran-owned business we've had, whether they've been going for 6 months or they've been going for 15 years, you're putting the hours in. Do you know what I mean? You're putting the hours in to make that business work. And, and I think the resilience you get from things like deployments, from things like, being in tough times and seeing these things through, I think that's the kind of thing that prepares you for the business to be successful. It's because so many, mate. Your website blows my mind, because when we started the podcast, I had the first 5 guests in my head. I knew who I was going to have on because they are people I've served with, people I've deployed with. I was like Tom Newey. I served with Tom in Afghanistan. I knew Tom had challenge coins. I knew he'd come on the podcast. I knew his business was brilliant. It was a tick. And it wasn't until we started exploring social media and Forces brands, and you were looking on things and thinking, they're a veteran-owned brand. So you do a bit of digging, and we would add them on Instagram, and so we can build that network. And you see, the clothing brands are fascinating. You've got is it Real Meal that do the food, Dry Tech, all these things, various coffee, various. Yes, sir.
There's a Real Meal.
And it's fascinating, because it's not just and you do have different things where you have lots of veteran t-shirt brands, and you have lots of veteran coffees, and they're doing that really well. But then veteran single malt whiskey, veteran Real Meal bars that you can get all the nutrition you need when you're doing all the ultra events and stuff. It blows my mind, the knowledge that goes into it.
Yeah, so if you was to go on to Forces Brands, you would find at least 140 different brands, and it's growing all the time. There's so many people for you to nip on there, pull out a brand, give them an interview, and not just for your podcast, but any podcast or any news outlet or anyone that wants to support veterans in any way. The brand Forces Brands is there, so you can go in, grab that snippet. Oh, they do cigars. I'm a cigar connoisseur, and go get yourself a Trident cigar, and away you go. There's everything you'd ever need that being made by veterans somewhere.
Which is ace, mate, and that's what I love. Like Trident watches, Sterling, and it's like we had obviously Ben Garwood, who was 2-para, then UKSF, has HR4K. HR4K, mate, is like the whole clothing brand and patrol is great, but at the community hub they've got, there are so many that are looking at that thinking that's exactly what we need. Do you know what I mean? A community hub where we can come together, drink coffee, chat shit, and just have a good time. It's brilliant, mate.
HR4K is like the OG of
it really is
veteran-owned, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can get veteran-owned surfboards. There's a place down in Devon, North Devon, in Braunton called Surfed Out, and he's an ex 3-para guy that owns a surf shop. He's got and the quality is he's probably the best quality in the UK. Surfed out. It's amazing what's out there. And
Mate,
when
I was going to say, there's another Power Edge bloke who's opened a cafe. It's called, what's it called? It's up north somewhere. Someone shared it with us, and I connected. We connected on socials. But he's like not just gone into the coffee, but he's opened a full-on cafe. Like, you know what I mean? Like at a time when, you know, high streets and that, it's hard. You know, and the various, you've got Starbucks, you've got Costa and stuff. It's opened a fucking cafe, man, and it's doing well.
Yeah.
It's thriving. It's brilliant, mate.
especially like, you know, a couple of years back during COVID, there was brands popping up that were popping up in like the real bad time in the market,
Yeah.
and they've just grizzed through it. They've grizzed through it, and it's. I don't want them to grizz anymore. I want them to be a success. I want them to have featured adverts before you watch a premiere movie at the cinema, or, you know, that's how high I want some of these veteran brands to go, and I think we all do. The whole community wants that.
100%.
And the numbers,
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why we do this, right? We do this to help our brothers and sisters in arms to the left and right of us, right? That's what we
exactly.
do. We all have a common bond. We all want to help each other and share each other. And yeah, we take the fucking piss constantly out of each other, but we do that because that's what we do, right? That's how we bonded. That's how we bonded across all services, right? So I get it, and this is one of my main drivers for doing things like this, doing the collaboration that we're doing right now. It again emphasizes, one, how strong the community is, but two, what the actual community brings outside of the community, if that makes sense, right? So veterans,
Yeah.
businesses and brands, right? There's people out there that will listen to this podcast, hopefully, right? And will go onto Forces brands and go, what? That shit, right? Okay. Right, that I never knew that. Or wow, oh my god, look at this. This is exactly what I've been looking for. And for us as veterans, what we also want to do is give back as well. We want to help support these guys, right? So we want to go and guys and girls. So we want to go and buy their products, promote their products, right? And I think I can see your vision in enabling to do that. And it leads me on to my next question. So we've discussed a little bit about it before. I mean, off the back of your question, if that makes sense. Forces brands. What skill sets do you think, or what have you learned from your current military career that has helped in driving your mission and your vision of your business?
Good question. Thank you for asking that. It's easy to go back to core values, and we all have them. Everyone that's been a veteran or has served has core values, and that would be the quick and easy answer. The longer answer would be, when we were on operational tours, you put your heart and soul and body into everything you do, and it's not for you. It's for the man next to you or the girl next to you. It's the people next to you. You get up at silly o'clock in the morning to go on stag for 2 hours, 3 hours. You make sure your weapon is cleaned. You're eating the right food. You're getting the right sleep. And for those 6 to 7 months, all of your focus is on the team's success, and that's life and death. If you was to be able to take that same energy, that same passion, and put it into something else that's bigger than yourself, like a business, there's only one thing that's going to happen, and that's success. If you can show up for those around you, and be present and be active, and no matter how tired you are, you just keep showing up. You keep showing up. If you can do that for your business, then it's only going to go one way, and that's success. It doesn't, it means communicating with people that you maybe not necessarily communicated with before. It means getting outside of your comfort zone. And you did all these things on an operational tour.
Yeah.
Why can't you do those things in your own life and make gains for yourself. If you're struggling with your own mental health, get to the gym, get working out, get yourself in a mentally positive mood, which then allows you to have more confidence to speak to people and develop your business. It sounds like a lot, but you've done it before.
Mate, I love that, mate. One of the things I was going to say to you is, because we're CAPB podcast, fortunately and thankfully, very thankful that we're on Forces Brands website, as well as a lot of other credible, far more credible podcasts, military owned. And then look at the clothing brands, lots of military owned clothing brands. How do you, or what's your system to make sure that it is a platform for veteran owned brands and we avoid the whole, I mean, it's Forces Brands is doing great things and it's going to grow exponentially. How do we keep it to Forces and veteran owned brands and keep those who maybe didn't serve into their own lane? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. So the whole, Walter Mitty, Stolen Valor, how do we keep them out? So this question came up when I was talking about making Forces Brands into like an Amazon, a veteran owned, and somebody says, yeah, well, what if Amazon just put a button on their website that says veteran owned and people can log in and get veteran stuff? I was like, well, for one, Amazon won't have the ability to authenticate. We know that, you see somebody that's the way they talk, the way they hold themselves, alarm bells will start to ring.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to authenticate whether somebody is veteran owned or not. And that's through friends of friends, through the network, the links. And if it keeps growing and it gets to the point where, they aren't friends of friends, then the ability to ask them to upload a veteran's ID card or their MOD card, obviously completely abiding by data protection and all that sort of stuff. But it's too easy to spot a faker in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I have had it. I have had people try and join Forces Brands. I had an American company that tried to join, and her husband, or previous husband, was the veteran who'd started the business, and then they got divorced, and she took the whole business and tried to, set it up as a veteran owned. I was a bit like, I feel for you, but it doesn't meet our sort of criteria. So I had to say no. It is for veterans, and I want to keep it that way as best possible. And
I mean, it's a shame that it's even something we consider, because don't get me wrong, don't get me started on like Remembrance Sunday and the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? There is people celebrate and commemorate and remember in their own different ways, but the people who pretend to have served, I don't think there's much. There's not much that boils my piss more than that. At all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a serious topic, and you could justify it by saying, oh, they potentially have mental health problems, and I imagine there are a few people out there with mental health problems that pretend to be veterans when they weren't. It's sad, but it's annoying for us. But the real sad state of affairs is that it's very sad for them to be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's madness. And the reason I say it and about the the authentication piece is because I genuinely believe what you've built as a platform for Forces Brands. The fact that it's growing over 140 veteran-owned brands, and we even that we've done 30 podcasts. So in theory, you're like our phone book. You want for veteran-owned brands for future guests, but like it's going to continue to grow, isn't it? It's going to continue to grow, and when it's you can see it being up there, and people going, it's a default to look at. Now, Paul and I we're cut from the same cloth. It's like I will always look for a veteran-owned brand first. If I see a startup veteran-owned brand, I'm always keen to, if they're selling something, I'm always keen to buy something because I feel like, if it's 20 or 30 pound or whatever, you think it's a t-shirt or whatever, I'm like, I'm all in for it because you've got to start somewhere. I remember when Bry Wood started Keep Attacking, and he started just with some hoodies and some t-shirts, from his kitchen table, and now he's like providing, he's got sportswear range, he's got all this other stuff, and he did it almost as a side hustle to the speaking and all the rest of it. And I think it's like businesses can significantly grow. Same as we had PJ on from Gibraltar Trading Company.
Yeah.
He started selling stickers, man, like selling stickers on Etsy, and that was it. And now he's got this like really established clothing brand, and it's growing all the time. And I just think having a platform like Forces Brands where people can look at, or if they hear something and say, "Oh, that's Forces owns," they can maybe use it as a reference. One of the things I was going to say is Forces charities, right? Forces charities. Now, I think there's something silly like 200.
There's more than that.
Charities.
There's way more than that.
It's something ridiculous, but
Yeah.
you hear so many. There's just something diffy. Do you know what I mean? You hear the big ones, and you support the big charities, like we all do. But there are so many that aren't. And I think even like Forces Brands or something similar, to look at the military charities as a level of, they've been through due diligence and they are a genuine charity or something that is supporting the right thing, as opposed to, like you say, Stolen Valor, using it as leverage to gain money for,
Yeah. So we don't have that many. We don't have that many charities on the website because it's more centered around business type things. And the reason for that is, and I have looked at putting charities and having their own separate page, so that if somebody does come, they can find a charity that suits their needs and go and fulfill whatever it is they need to do. But I think the media, especially movies and TV, they focus so much on negative veteran stories. You always say, if there's a murder mystery, that the murderer was, an ex-veteran, and he, whatever. And there's so many negative stories in the media and the news, and talk about homelessness and stuff like that. But the other end of the spectrum is there is so many positive stories. And although I feel for the people that need the help and that are in those positions, those people or those charities are there to help them. But I want to focus on the success stories, the positivity, and if that positivity can, get down to the people that need help and realize, or have an epiphany of like, these veterans have become a success. A bit of inspiration. I can sort of go further today, do more today, and or just pick up the phone and ask for help. And that's another sort of aspect, is just celebrating the success stories of veterans, just because I'm sick in the tooth of all the negative press on that.
Mate, I get it totally. I think it's what is interesting, like in fact it's fascinating, is the amount of veteran-owned businesses who almost as a default give to military charities.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? At sacrificing their own fucking profit.
Yeah, exactly.
But like so many just give X amount of percent a year, or if we're selling the full, they're going to do a full range, and profit's going to go to reorg or whatever. I think it's again, it's a testament to the people who are setting up the businesses, right?
So I was reaching out. I had a look on the Combat Stress. I think it was Combat Stress. Yeah, the Combat Stress page, and at the bottom it said it was basically like the brands that sort of give to Combat Stress, and I saw Combat Clipper Co on there, Teague from Combat Clipper Co, and I was like, he's pretty new, as in a startup brand. He's doing really well. His products are amazing. I've got quite a few of them dotted around me at the moment. And even though he's brand new, he's still giving a percentage of his profit to charity. And that's fantastic. That is awesome. He's hit the market at just the right time, I believe, because the beard policy came in, and then Combat Clipper Co came in. I said to him, it's the Combat Clipper Co is the RSM's favourite brand, keeping people's beards groomed.
Mate,
But
when
yeah,
we had Teague on, right, and I said to him, I said, genius, that, and he was like, I've had a beard for 6 years, because he's got like, you know what I mean? He's like, I've had a beard for 6 years, so I've had to manage it. I've had to keep it trim. I've had to negotiate. He said, "I'm like, so it wasn't just like he went, I've got a great idea because the beard policy's changing. I'm going to create a business." It was something he was like into already.
Mm.
And what was fascinating about Teague was he was like, when we asked him, it was like, what do you know about business? He said, I knew nothing about business, but I had to commute 45 minutes to work. So he would be like, podcast. Oh, there's this podcast about tax. I'm going to listen to that. This podcast about marketing. I would listen to that. All self-taught. He is a massive success story, Teague, and he's still serving as well. He's
Yeah.
shout out to Teague, Combat Clipper.
Yeah, huge success. And the good thing about them as well, about Combat Clipper Co, is the guy is such a nice bloke.
Yeah.
Isn't he? He's such a nice bloke.
He's a top boy, mate.
And his customer service as well is on point. So when you get your products from him, you not only get your nice little box with the thing you've ordered in, there's a coffee in there for you and a sticker pack and Velcro patches. It's just really nicely put together, and occasionally maybe a thank you little note to. It's great customer service, and that all comes down to probably his lived experience in the forces and being loyal to customers, and it can go a long way, and it does.
Yeah, defo, mate, defo. You say something, Paul?
We've touched on it briefly, Ash, but what's kind of next for like Forces brands?
So I've just lined up an app. So basically, app that will be on your mobile phone, and as many people that can download this app, the better. And on that app, you'll have notifications of events, notifications of new brands and new products, notifications for new trending social media conversations around veteran style things, and every time a new brand joins the multi-veteran marketplace to try and grow that, the customers will get a notification right there and then on the phone. That's what I want. That's next, and I'm pumping a lot of time and energy to make sure it's just right, and I'm very excited about it. It's going to hopefully help veterans and their supporters to congregate in that one place.
Will that be?
Mate, I love that,
will that be available on both sort of?
Google Play and the iOS App Store. Yeah,
mate, that is mega, mate. To make it easier, I think that's fun. That's brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant.
It's easy. It's easy for me because I've still got the security blanket of having a financial income from work, and for me to be able to do this for them at this stage is fantastic. I'm leaving the army maybe the next 2 to 3 years, and I want it all pristine by the time I leave, so I can put my heart and soul into it, and I want to see everybody rise. I want every single veteran organisation to lap the other brands in that department. I look at certain brands, for example, what's a famous coffee company like
Taylor's, Costa, you know what I mean? They've all got
something like that. And every time somebody goes to these brands and they order a Costa, they're paying into a multi-billion pound corporation where that money will go and sit in an account, and it won't do circles within the economy, and it won't do circles within the community. But when you go to a coffee place like HR4K or Beat the Demons, these type of veteran-owned coffee companies, that money will go in, and then it will circulate, and it will be part of the community, and it's only good for the economy. So yeah, what's next is the app, and I'm really excited about supporting these guys as best as I can, and girls.
Ash, I love it, mate. I love it. I guess the final thing I would want to ask you is, what's the process? What's the process if someone a veteran? We have a lot of veterans listening to the podcast, and we've had, as I say, this is episode 30. I'm looking on Forces brands. Probably a good half are already there, but the other half aren't. So what would be the process of them saying, yeah, I want to part of that, especially with the app developing? What's their process of coming to you and saying, get me involved?
Thanks for asking that. That's I should have answered this. So if you go on the app or onto the mobile version or on a desktop, there's a bunch of lists of the things you can go and click on. And one of them is brands join us. you click on Brands Join Us, and there'll be a list of options. The options are whether or not you just want to add your link, so that your link is added to the website, so it's backlinked, to aid in search engine optimization, stuff like that. There's another option so that you can sort of begin the affiliate marketing process, because a lot of brands that I've spoken to have never heard of affiliate marketing because they're probably concentrating on everything else. And what affiliate marketing is allowing your customers to gain a reward for generating more customers for you. So there's an option there where you can learn a bit more about affiliate marketing and get your brand involved in that. And then finally, the most important option is, or the one I'm concentrating on the most, is for brands to join the multi-veteran marketplace, which is whereby they add their products to our shop. And the good thing about this is the more brands that are on there, the more exposure there is for everybody that's involved. And not only that, we then will also run the affiliate marketing campaigns for you. For example, we would ask for a 15% reward, and that is so that we can offer a 7.5% reward to affiliates that generate customers for them, and then a 7.5% discount code. So technically, if you was to become an affiliate, you could have a 15% discount. How does that affect the brand? Not too much, because instead of them giving a 15% up of their company, they can raise the price slightly to accommodate for that. And what does the customer get out of it is the convenience of it being in one place and being able to make money on the sales that they generate themselves.
I think it's brilliant, mate. I think bringing that one-stop shop is a really nice touch to have. Like, as I say, I looked at the website earlier on, and the fact that you can buy some coffee, you can go on to Combat Clip stuff, and there's 3 or 4 other brands on there, and you can just put all that in that one place. Saves you I'll have to go to that, I'll scroll for that. I think it's brilliant, mate. And I think bringing the veteran community together and what you're doing with Forces Brands is inspiring, mate. Absolutely inspiring.
So I just want to touch on the price thing a little bit there. The reason why the prices of each product are slightly increased is because we don't charge for shipping. So there's no shipping cost when you order from Forces Brands. So the cost is kind of like included in the price, which makes it easier for everyone that's involved, especially if anyone was to become an affiliate and help sell the products that are on Forces Brands. They can earn a reward without sort of the shipping side of things getting in the way. We've closed it down so it's only UK based. We were looking at trying to get some Australian veteran-owned companies into the UK because they were very keen, and the tariffs and whatnot just wasn't working out quite right at the time. But we're going to look at that again in the future.
We improvise, adapt, and overcome, innit? We change and we evolve, and
yeah,
it's look sharp, mate. And I think, as I say, it's a fantastic thing to do for the veteran community.
The other thing I forget to mention, the other thing in the deep future is I want to have a store, a shop that's bricks and mortar, and in that bricks and mortar shop is Comet Clipper Co, Huscarl, Dry Trek, you name it, Real Meal, Pagoda Watches, just all in one shop. That's the dream. A supermarket for veteran owned.
Mate, I love that, mate. Listen,
everyone will be in there.
Everyone will be in there, mate. Ash, thank you so much for giving up your time to come on the podcast, mate. Really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to share this episode with the CAPB podcast community. So thank you, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a massive privilege to be here, and I just hope that I can do justice for those brands and people that are out there grafting. They're grafting out there.
Love it, mate.
Cheers,
Take care, Ash.